So this video is going to be a little bit old in the sense that I'm just breaking down an older competition, but it was a really important competition. So it was the North American Grip Sport Championship, and that was a 2-day competition that was held in Minnesota. So it had 2 different locations. One day we were at a gym for the first 4 events, and then the 2 to 3 events that happened on the second day, that's when we were actually inside the Mall of America on like the Rotunda stage is what it was called. So I'll have some pictures put up for that. But yeah, just wanted to break down my performance and how the competition went, point out some highlights and some different stuff, but going to keep this one really short, mostly just some lifting videos as I break down my performance, highlight a few other good lifts and just some of the competition stuff. But yeah, just going to be my perspective going through that event. So when I got to town, definitely a decent little drive out to Minnesota from Ohio, but got out there and first event's grippers. So for me, grippers are not something I really train ever. I don't really, I don't practice them. I don't have a set day that I do them. I don't train them. It doesn't mean that I don't touch them. It doesn't mean that I don't know how to use them. I'm not bad at grippers, but it's not something I train, and it's not something I'm super invested in my training. So I knew that the year prior, I did a competition with Jed Johnson and Eric Hussein where we had to close, grippers with a 20 millimeter block set. And I had closed a 160 rated gripper then, which is basically a little bit over like a Captain's Crush number 3, or on the very, very high end of a Captain's Crush number 3. But I've closed that gripper before in competition, so that was at least kind of the goal I wanted. Considering I didn't really, train grippers going into this. I knew that I had done that basically a year prior. That was kind of my benchmark. I didn't want to drop below that, but I wasn't sure if I'd be able to improve on that in competition. So yeah, just real quick, the events were, 20 millimeter block set for grippers, Napalm Nightmare, so 2 revolving handles, but it was the 2x5 pinch blocks for a 6-inch lift, Iron Mind axle, so it's a 2-inch thick axle. 4 attempts for those lifts, so you had to kind of be selective with, when you opened, what your jumps were going to be, and then also based on your competitors, in the competition, what jumps were they taking. So there was a ton of strategy going on, a lot of, people maybe taking smaller jumps and burning up all their attempts, playing it safe, and then also on the opposite side of that, people taking way too big of jumps and actually leaving some pounds on the table, and it hurts their performance. So that's the tricky part about in-person competition is everything is that day in the moment. You don't get 5 minutes to get ready. You don't get whatever, it's once things start going, they unfold, and you kind of just fall back to the level of your training or what you can do in that moment. So after Axel was Little Bighorn, and then that wrapped up day 1. Day 2, had some issues with the Hercules hold. The women did go ahead and complete the Hercules hold. The men did not get a chance to do the Hercules hold, so we only had 2 events. So from my perspective as a competitor, we had the Blob loading ladder, basically. So it had different boxes. You'll see it when I bring it up, but had to go, you start at the beginning, lift up different blobs starting from, the lightest and narrowest to the biggest and widest ones we had there, which was a 120 Legacy blob, right about 58 plus pounds. So, and then once you reached that, you had to, lift it up, unload it, lift it up, unload it, as many reps as you could. With it being such a challenging blob, a lot of people didn't do that, didn't even get to that blob. On the flip side of that, some of the better competitors that have large hands and really specialize in blobs, they ran off with it and hit double digits. So it's always interesting to see who has, different strong suits on certain lifts or certain formats. And, across 2 days, 6 to 7 events long, you really have to have a complete game, and you can't really make any big errors. Really, you can't really make small mistakes in a competition like that or with a field of competitors that's this good. So it definitely brings out the best in people. And it's almost impossible to make the right call every single time as a competitor. You hope you get it right more often than not, but sometimes when you're in there competing and you're doing stuff, or the texture's changing on a handle, or you didn't warm up properly, which I'm going to get into, you just don't quite know how things are going to go. Sometimes it's a little worse, sometimes it's better than you expected. Sometimes you fully deliver on everything. It goes exactly how you saw it. So, and then the last event for the men was the inch dumbbell farmer walk. So picking up 2-inch dumbbells, starts at about 100 pounds, run those down. Then it's like 130 some pound dumbbells, run them back, 150 something, run those 2 down, and then come back, try to pick up the full-size Thomas inch dumbbells. So I'm going to go ahead and just break down my performance and some little highlights as I get into this. So I mentioned the grippers being the first event and me wanting to hit a 160 or try to, not fall below that. The competition I had done the year prior was hosted by Jeff Peterson, and with his success of running that competition, Jeff Peterson put in a proposal for North American Grip Sport Championship, to be the host and promote it. So I was really excited to see Jeff get the nod for that, because he really does have a good background in strongman events and just promotion, and he's a good talker, gets a lot of stuff done. You know what I mean? Just he understands the sport, cares about the athletes, and tries to do his best at understanding every single aspect of it to deliver the best competition for the competitors. So Jeff, with his strongman background and his background in promoting events, really did a good job of setting all this up, coordinating a 2-day event. Everything from trophies, cash prizes, to the, after party, food, all that stuff. Really was just a great time. So just wanted to make sure that I give Jeff his credit and his due as a promoter. And yeah, it's interesting because, like I said, I've never really been to Minnesota outside of competing for grip. So visiting the mall, I didn't really walk around the mall. I was, only there to compete basically. So at first I remember walking in thinking, it's not that big. And then I started seeing roller coasters inside the building, and I'm like, okay, I guess this is pretty big. but yeah, I didn't walk around too much. Just got to see a couple stores, get some food, and then I mostly hung out in the stage area where we were lifting for that second day. But I had an awesome time talking to all the competitors, talking to new people. The staff that was helping with the competition was awesome. Jeff has awesome friends, awesome staff. Meeting different lifters that I didn't get a chance to talk to before. Man, I could go on a whole list. So many of the Canadian lifters that I haven't had a chance to compete against, I got to actually kind of compete with them or meet some of them for the first time. And yeah, it was just, I don't know. It's hard to explain unless you're there, kind of competing and taking part in it. But I was about to miss when I should be lifting. I was about to miss it every time because I was so busy talking to everybody and having a good time. I was at one point after Rob McMurrin had torn his bicep. I was over talking to Rob by the M&M store or something, and I literally just sat there for 30 minutes hearing him talk about hockey fight stories and stuff, just growing up kind of old school, playing hockey in Canada and everything. So that was, I don't know, I was doing stuff like that. I was obviously focused on my performance and what I needed to do, but with that, there also comes that balance of hey, I don't need to be switched on and full go mode if I'm not even going to get up to my bigger attempts in, the next hour or something, or 30 minutes. So I felt like it was about as good as it could have turned out for me when it comes to, meeting and talking to people. We always wish we had more time. It always seems faster once it starts to wrap up. But yeah, so I'll just get into some of these lifts. I just wanted to give Jeff his credit as a promoter. Wanted to just throw some of the stuff out there about getting to hang out and meet some people that I had, hadn't got a chance to talk to. Andy G from Canada, really good super heavyweight lifter that's popped on the scene here recently. I talked to Andy a lot online about some lifts and different things, and just all types of different lifts. So yeah, it's just good meeting a lot of these people in person. So now getting into the lifts. So first event's 20 millimeter block set with grippers. All I really wanted to do was at least hit a 160. That would start me off in the upper area of the overall. I had no delusions of winning the overall. I had no delusions of even podium, making the podium in the overall. But I felt like I could be pretty close to the edge of the podium as far as maybe 4th to 7th, 8th place. And your worst case scenario, I'm like, damn, I do not want to fall out of the top 10 for the overall. So that was kind of my goal. But I felt like I was somewhere just off the podium in my head, but I had to still go there and, display that through 2 days worth of lifting and 6 events. So we get to grippers. In the order we were doing it, I followed Luke Raymond, and me and him are, he's better at grippers than I am. I have closed that gap a little bit and caught up to him. Better than I used to be. And with grippers, there's always the spread. There's always something right. But me and Luke ended up tying for third in that event. So we both hit the 160. I was actually kind of, I won't say lucky I hit the 160, but warming up was not ideal. And that's what I alluded to earlier. So when I jumped in on this, I had brought some grippers from my house, just some of my own training ones, just to warm up with, because I didn't want to be up at the table fighting people for a spot and trying to get grippers that someone's using. And I just bring my own stuff, stay out of their way. I get warm whenever I want, and that's how I approach that. But I hadn't closed anything over a 102. And like I said, got to talking to all these people and having a good time. And I look up, and I had brought a 140 with me. That was going to be the last warm-up gripper I closed. I was going to work my way up to close the 140, and then I was probably going to open at 160. And I ended up standing there. I had the 140 in my hand. The biggest thing I had closed was a 102. And I'm talking to so many people getting distracted. And I look up, and Luke Raymond is mid-squeeze on a gripper. And I know I'm next. So I'm like, do I close the 140 right now? And then 3 seconds later, walk up and try to close the 160? Or do I open a little bit lighter because I'm not warm? Or do we just go for broke and say, hey, I'm going for the 160. I got multiple attempts. Let me give it a shot. But I wasn't warmed up ideally where I should have been, and I should have been paying better attention. So my goal was to close that 140 and kind of get primed and then go bigger. And I had to just, in the moment, got caught up, had to jump out there and give it a go. So I think with a little bit of a better warm-up, the 160 would have been easier to close. But I did manage to close it. My very first attempt, I did take a stab at like the 170, skipped the 165 and went for the 170. It wasn't really close. It gave me some hope for maybe, something in the future to shoot for, but it was just a little bit out of reach that day. But I ended up taking third in that event overall and tied for first in my weight class, me and Luke. So that was a good start for me. From there, we get into the Napalm Nightmare 2x5 inch pinch. The narrow pinch is something I'm usually pretty good at on Saxon Bar, Napalm Nightmare. I'm not the best at it, but I'm like in that top 5. I'm up there. If we're in a competition, I'm going to be towards the upper end in most of these events because I'm pretty well-rounded, but I don't necessarily have an event that I'm so good at that I'm guaranteed like a first or second. I usually am clawing around the third or fourth, and then every now and then I get up and I'll, get a first or second in a competition. But a lot of times I'm just below the best people, but it's in every event because I don't really have any bad events. So with this, it was tricky because the handles did not feel good at first. They were slick. The friction and texture matters on these type of lifts. And it was tricky to kind of get it feeling the way you wanted it. It ended up working out for me. I finally got warmed up around probably the 220, 230 mark. And I ended up pulling a final lift of 286 pounds. I pulled this 286. I didn't want to, it was my 4th attempt. I only got 4 attempts for this competition. So I had to pick those attempts wisely. And once you open, you can't keep taking warm-ups. So you have to, kind of really know where you're at. And with some of these factors changing, it can be tough to always put your best number on the board. So from there, I hit 286. Some people tried taking bigger jumps up to the 290s and missed. So they were credited with 281 just below me. And then I want to say I had 2 or 3 people beat me in that event. I know Luke Raymond beat me. Andy G, who I mentioned, beat me. But I think I was like right there at that dividing point where a lot of people died at 281. I hit the 286, and then there was a couple more that went above and beyond. But that once again put me right up there in the top. So first 2 events out the gate, I'm not looking that bad. I realize I have some other events I'm not quite as good at, and some of these other people are really good at. So I'm just trying to get the best start I can because next event's Axel. And I'm not known for pulling axle very well. I'm not known for being bad at it, but I'm not known for like pulling a huge axle. Kind of like, I don't know, right where someone at this level should be, pretty much like a 400-pound axle. So I ended up kind of taking the warm-ups faster than normal, bigger jumps, quicker. It was all in a tighter window. So I think that a lot of times when I'm pulling axle, it's usually at a bigger event and there's a lot more resting between, and that usually kind of messes with my back sometimes. And for this competition, everything was ran through so quick, and I'm in decent enough shape with my conditioning and my work capacity. It didn't burn me out. So for me going into axle, as long as my back didn't, I kind of had some stuff going on, leading up into the competition. It's why I didn't train much for it. It was mostly back related stuff. But I was going to, hey, day of, I felt better. I wanted to see how it went. And if I had, something that worried me, I could always chill out and, just, hey, it is what it is. Don't force it. But I kept feeling good. So I just kept going with it. And I think that it ended up, like I said, considering the training going into it and just the day of, I think it's about as good as I could have done. So I ended up taking my jumps based on the other competitors. And I want to say that I think me and Luke Raymond tied on this one as well. We hit 397. So the jumps were just going by kilos and the way they ended up going. So 397 pounds. Would I have liked to have thrown 3 pounds on there just to say I hit 400? Sure. But in the moment, I didn't want to risk taking another, 6 to 11 pound jump or whatever it was going to be. So I think 397 for my final attempt was probably a safe bet. If I could have done it any different, maybe I should have opened one jump later. That way 397 would have been my third attempt. But honestly, considering how bad my back was weeks out from the competition, I considered not even doing the competition at all. And for me to pull 397 and take second, a tie for second in that event in the weight class was I can't complain with that result. But me and Luke tied on that. But then Eric Rusain in our class, this is where he came back to life a little bit. Didn't have the best grippers, did pretty well on bench, but maybe could have done slightly better. And Eric ended up hitting what was it? Like 430, I think. I think he went 430 or 430 something, and then I think he tried taking a stab at 440 and it wasn't there. But yeah, so that was a huge event for him. And yeah, the 105 kilo class was just so stacked that it all I don't know. And that's the reason we like these big competitions and we like doing stuff like that, for North Americans. Every 2 years, the best lifters, whether it be in the US or Canada, come together and pretty much have a 2-day event and go all out. Then we went into Little Bighorn. Little Bighorn's been tricky for me. I almost always fall like between 205 and 215, 216. I think I hit 213 or 214 that day, depending on what the conversion came out to. I was happy with that. That's a solid like 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 performance. We always wish we could do a little extra, a little bit more, but that one was awesome. So that wrapped up day one, and I was feeling pretty good with where I was. I didn't really miss any events. I didn't underperform. I had either done a little bit better or just what I thought I would probably be capable of. So can't beat that at a competition this big, especially with all the travel and injury stuff mixed in. Day two, we get into the Blob loading ladder, and this is at the mall. So now we start to get a little bit of a crowd. We start to get, Jeff's on the mic. He's actually emceeing instead of just running around and, keeping both platforms running smoothly in the gym the day prior. Now we have one stage and all the focus is on that stage. And Jeff is, he's the MC, he's the promoter, he's running things, he's breaking down rules. And hats off to Jeff for all the effort he put in on that. And just the way he controlled such a group of, I don't say crazy, but you just get all these big, strong men, women's lifters just doing whatever at the Mall of America, talking da-da-da-da-da. It's hard to get 30 of these people to listen to you. And Jeff did a really awesome job. Anytime there was an announcement, a change in something, a solution to a problem that was going on and the athletes needed to be informed, Jeff was very good at taking control of the competition and how it moved. So can't say enough good things about that. But yeah, so we get into the blobs. I ended up taking the lead by the time I went. My performance was the top one at the time, but the big guns still hadn't gone yet, so we were still waiting for some of them. Luke ended up beating me. I think I had tied with a couple people, like Grant Thompson, Derek Hudson, awesome lifters. I tied with these guys on blobs at 5 reps on the last one before we timed out. And then Luke came along and hit, 8 reps, and Jed came through and hit like 14, 15, and then, or maybe he hit like 11 or 12, I don't know. And then like Jalen Worley, W Grip was there. W hit a big number. Lucio Batista, the Mustache Ninja, he was there. He hit some big stuff on the blobs. He won the event. So it was a tough one, but once again, I kind of stayed right there at not at the top, but just below. And going into this last event, I really thought I was going to be able to walk the double inch replicas. But after 2 full days of competing, after doing 5 full events, and then for this event, like I said, the bells are to be lifted in ascending order. So you have to lift, 200 pounders and walk them. And then you have to take the 135s and walk them, and then the 150s and walk them, and then the 170 plus, So honestly, after hitting all these max lifts in the 2-day period and the lack of training going into it, the tricky part with an inch dumbbell farmer walk for me on this day was my left hand wasn't feeling it. I could lift the bell left-handed and do whatever, but I wasn't able to left-hand suitcase, get up, and then move with the bells after doing the 3 previous bells. I just think my left hand kind of burned out in my wrist a little bit. And it just wasn't there. So I ended up running the first 3 sets of bells probably faster than anybody, but took my time, tried to do the best I could to pick up and get some distance on the final ones. Couldn't pull it off. So that's stuck with a good time at the 150s. But yeah, so other than, once again, losing at the top end to maybe 2 to 4 people in each event, I really was kind of right there in the running for it. And just wanted to congratulate everybody that made the trip, traveled, put all their training to the test, helped with the event, helped give other people advice, all that good stuff. And I mean, we had lifters from all over the country, obviously, out of the country. And I don't know, it's just an interesting mix of people to get in the same room and then just kind of roll the dice, because you just don't know how the competition's going to turn out. And when you get this many just elite athletes in this sport, and you get them all on these events across 2 days, we don't know who's going to get injured, who's going to get tired from a 2-day competition, because typically it's 1 day. So there's so many different factors going into this that, like I said, it really brought out the best in everybody. And the fact that we had a good portion of the sport's best there, I think was really the thing that kind of set this competition apart from so many other competitions where you're guaranteed to have a couple good people, but this one, it's the cream of the crop. It's the best people in North America, and all the same room, same time, and no excuses. So it's really my favorite style to compete in, is something like that. Long duration, single venue. That's where I kind of, I'll typically do better there than I will at like a multi-venue or something where I don't know. I don't get into that as much. So ended up getting up there kind of high up on the inch dumbbell list as far as that placing. But like I said, not really quite up there towards the top where I would have liked to have been on that one. So I think some of the longer times on that, or longer distances, I should say, were Lucio Batista, Jalen Worley, Eric Rusain, Devin Lee Brown. If anybody follows the sport, you definitely know those names. They did an awesome job at carrying those inch farmers. And yeah, outside of maybe those 4 people or so, I think that's about all that beat me on that event. But that performance was good enough to put me 7th overall out of, I don't forget how many people were there for just the men, 20 something. But like I said, it's basically an invite only, or you have to qualify. So it's not like it's open sign up. So I took 7th overall out of maybe 25 people probably. And then within the weight class, I actually took 2nd place. So it was very close. I think it was maybe separated by half a point. And this happens sometimes, whether it be King Kong or within grip, depending on the scoring and the format. Sometimes you will be a position above in the overall or below in your weight class. You'll flip them. So like in this case, Eric Roussane took 6th place overall and beat me in the overall standings. But within just our weight class competitors, I beat him by like half a point. So for me, that was kind of a big benchmark because granted, he beat me in the overall. I still beat him in the weight class. And for me to beat Eric, that was the first time I've done it in competition like that. So that was kind of a cool milestone to knock off. I've been chasing Eric for a long time. I've beat him in several events, but not in a full competition. So in this one still, got me in the overall, but that just depends on other people's lifts and stuff. But kind of head-to-head in the weight class, I managed to pull a win on him. Luke Raymond won our weight class, so I did not manage to get Luke this time. Luke's still on my hit list, but I haven't got Luke yet. But yeah, so for our weight class, it ended up being Luke Raymond in 1st, I took 2nd, and then Eric Roussane in 3rd. And then, Rob McMurrin had the bad bicep tear early on day 1 that kind of, really messed that up for him. I was really wanting to see what Rob could do because he's such a good lifter on blobs and dumbbells. I kind of was bummed he didn't get to, go all out in those events. And then Adam Cohen is another person that was in our weight class who's really torn it. He's torn it up in the Masters divisions and done some of these bigger expos. But it was nice to see his, 'cause a lot of times when he's at these expos, and this is not a knock on Adam, this is just who's signing up. Adam's awesome. But sometimes in the Masters divisions, he doesn't quite run into the same level of competition that he was against in this particular weight class. So to see Adam Cohen, I guess, rise to the occasion on these events and, stay right there on the axle, pull off some blob lifts that I didn't expect him to do. It was awesome to see. So that pumped me up. That was awesome because nobody wants to be in a weak weight class and nobody wants to, have a performance or anything be diminished by, stuff that's out of their control. So in this case, although not making the podium in this weight class, I was super impressed with Adam Cohen and his performance. And it kind of showed that whether he's doing a Masters competition with 2 to 3 lifters in his class, he's professional and he's showing up regardless, because from the North Americans to, whatever it may be, a small Masters division or whatever, the only thing I've seen from him is just professionalism and consistency all the way across the board. So it's not like he, stumbled on some events or, we found some weaknesses. Anything that maybe was a slight weakness of his in the past, I feel like he's rounded out his game. And I mean, man, a couple lifts here or there and Adam's on the podium, depending on how it goes. So sometimes the spreadsheet doesn't always tell the tale of, how well someone performed, because there's, like I said, there's so many other people there and so many things are out of our hands. But yeah, and I'm giving the shout out to these guys kind of just because it was my weight class, so I was familiar with what they're doing, what they're lifting. But yeah, like I said, I could literally go down the list and say good things about everybody. So if I leave you out, don't take it personal. I'm just doing this as a freestyle in the moment. I have a couple notes written down with my numbers. Other than that, I'm just talking. So yeah, other than that, cash prizes, the after party stuff, all good time. The staff was awesome, helping me get my weights that I had brought there, because I brought a few of my items for the second day. So, man, couldn't say enough nice things about the staff and the people there and everybody else that helped out. So, yeah, I don't know 100% where the 2028 North American Championship will be for grip sport, but it's going to be in Canada, that's for sure. I'm just not sure where in Canada, probably Ottawa or somewhere around there, but we'll see. So, yeah, this event only happens every 2 years. I did not get to do it in 2024. Super happy I made the trip in 2026 and super happy that it worked out for me. So that's really going to be it. Hope you enjoyed the videos and some of the pictures I got. This is mostly going to be me caught up as far as review stuff. And like I mentioned in some of the last couple videos of, working some vendor booths and other stuff, the training techniques and tutorials and all that good stuff is getting ready to drop. And I'm going to be putting out a lot more, training content coming up versus just recapping stuff like this. So sometimes this is good to get some information out. Sometimes it gives people an insight into why you did what you did or why your numbers ended up where they were. So if someone's really involved in the sport, they probably find this useful. If you're not really super into the sport, but you just kind of like strength or lifting, or you're just looking for, hey, how do I get better at this? This video might not be the best for you, but check out the future stuff or some of the past videos I got a whole playlist full of stuff. But in the future coming up, I am going to have, like I said, some Thomas Inch dumbbell, and then I'm just going to branch out and get crazy with it. So we're starting with the Thomas Inch dumbbell, and I'm going to put together, like I said, 2 videos as of now that I'm working on, but I don't know. Maybe I'll do a 3rd, 4th, 5th. I don't know. We'll have to see how it turns out. But yeah, just be on the lookout for all those videos. If you haven't subscribed or you're not following the channel, I do a lot more than just recaps. Like I said, I got over 1,000 videos of shorts feeds of me lifting some of the craziest stuff when it comes to grip strength feats. Been the most active competitor the last 5 years in grip sport, traveling the country, competing with all the best lifters in the world. Or as many of the best lifters in the world as I can within my regions. I haven't really gone out of the country, but I have had some international lifters come in and had a chance to lift with them. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So yeah, we're going to be getting back to the tutorials, the training, the more informative stuff, and I'm pretty much caught up with some of these things that I just couldn't get to. So yeah, check out the rest of the channel, and I'm sure there's probably something that can benefit you. If not, hey, it's not for you. Keep scrolling. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. Awesome job to all the competitors and all the staff, everybody that ran the competition. And yeah, hopefully this really sets the bar high for 2028, and we can see how that starts to develop over the next couple years. So thank you guys. Be on the lookout for the next stuff I'm putting out, and see you soon.